Okay, I just prepared a few notes like I did for the American Lit, just to kind of touch on the highlights. Um, I wanted to begin with women of the world have been writing as long as there have been women and an alphabet, but in 15 weeks, it's you can't cover all women's writings of the entire world. In fact, I just looked up on WikiList um, of world women's rights activists by country, and I'm not going to click on it now because I'll get lost and never find this again. But there were, every country in the world with, from 4 to 50 women's names. Under the American women's rights activists, there were 48 listed, and not all historical, some contemporary. The movement is still going on. So no single anthology can cover it all. So the authors of this text, I should call them the editors because they're just compiling everyone else's work. They chose women writers of the United States. We're just kind of picking a focus. And the other reason that I chose this anthology is they try to emphasize the joy, the joy of reading these works. They say, we hope to build a book that, relieved of an obligation to be comprehensive, readers could simply enjoy. They divided the book into private voices and public voices. Women are, have notoriously been private in expression. Education of children, though, luckily, historically, has put women in control, at least of that aspect. They need to be educated if they want to be good mothers, and men in a social system recognize that need to educate children. So they've never had the door shut on them. This isn't true across the board, but that's been kind of the inroad. Private and personal diaries, letters, poetry, even recipes, writing about food. A lot of these have become important because of their intimacy, because they are often so different from stereotypical male writing. And it's also a reason why so much personal writing is lost, because it's often destroyed with the woman. When she dies, they burn the diaries, burn the letters. Recipes, maybe they'll pass down. But for public voices, then, they try to give us a smattering of the first journalists like Judith Sargent Murray, Margaret Fuller, Fanny Fern. These are just great people to look up and read about for their times. Social activists, historically, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, Sojourner Truth. They try to include some social anomalies, women who don't fit into any category that easily. One example they gave was of Susan Fenimore Cooper, daughter of James Fenimore Cooper, who outsold Henry David Thoreau during her life. But I never even heard of her. It just, they're anomalies, they get passed by. Harriet Beecher Stowe, President Lincoln called the little lady who started the Civil War because of Uncle Tom's Cabin, and the thousands of people who read it. And of course, published stories, poetry, novels, plays. They organized the book by genre, short fiction, and I spend about 4 weeks on the short fiction because it tends to be my favorite. I just love short fiction. We've got a couple weeks on poetry, public lives, political and personal. They have a whole section on acting out. Some are regular plays, like you'd expect to see on a stage, but some are speeches. Some are ceremonies and rituals that, again, sort of defy categorization. And again, another whole section on private lives, from influential letters to modern voices just talking about very private things. And that leads to that last section they've included called bodily pleasures. And they emphasize recipes, food writings, and erotica. And they explain why they can't include novels. And again, they're just trying to get something into a handleable, readable anthology. So they leave out novels entirely, but then we can have that last 4 weeks of the course in which you will choose. Under week 11, I'm starting to compile a list of choices, mostly because it would help me out if you chose a novel that I know, because I might not have time to read it.